Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I am Fiona Forbes. Michael Eckford is off today and he'll be very disappointed because it's always nice to see our first guest, William B. Davis. Of course, you know him from The X-Files and a whole lot more. He has a brand new book out about his life called Where There's Smoke. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, and this is a question I always ask when somebody writes an autobiography, what brought this on?
Oh, that's a good. I mean, that's a question that comes from a couple of different angles because Jerry Wasserman talked to me about it quite some time ago because of my peculiar background in the Canadian theatre. Because I grew up with my cousins Murray and Donald Davis rehearsing in our basement when I was a child.
And that's how you started acting, which I didn't know.
Exactly. So there's a whole look on kind of Canadian theatre that's a story that needs to be told. Then I was in very unusual, well, not unusual, but just happened to be in the right place at the right time in Britain when the theatre was just really
exploding.
John Osborne and Harold Pinter in the beginning of the National Theatre, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in Canada when it was really kind of coming alive in the 70s. And then of course there's that weird and wonderful thing called The X-Files and how that happened and why that happened and
of course,
what that was.
Part of the reason why that happened is because you decided to move out west. Now, what made you decide to move to Vancouver?
I was offered a job to be director of the Vancouver Playhouse Acting School, which no longer exists and didn't exist very much longer after I moved out west. But that be as it may, I stayed, I had a family, and we just stayed. And one thing led to another. I started my acting school here, the William Davis Center for Actor Study.
Yeah.
Started doing more acting, because I've been mostly directing in the theater. And one thing led to another until I got this
audition came up.
Funny audition for well, actually it was an audition for a speaking role, which I didn't get.
Right.
And I got this part that had no lines on this pilot for a show about alien abduction.
That nobody had ever heard of, and nobody would have known that The X-Files would become what it was, nor that Cancer Man or Cigarette Smoking Man, as we know him, would become such a villainous icon. And Bill, you talk about it a lot in the book, how your character grew, because it was, as you said, a non-speaking character in the beginning.
Yeah.
And you didn't even know if the writers knew where this was going to go. What was it like for you to not know who this man was that you were playing?
Well, it was an interesting lesson in acting because the show had no Bible, or at least to whatever extent of a Bible it had, we didn't know, but I don't think it did. As many series do. So nothing was laid out. So the character was just an interesting presence in the background. I think, oh, this is pretty spooky to have a guy who smokes standing around in the background.
And I remember when it would air, everybody would wonder where this was going to go with the plot. Who were you? What was going on?
Exactly. And it got, they started to use me more and more and more. And then as I've heard the story since, I didn't even know at the time, Morgan and Wong came in with a script for Chris Carter with a big scenes for the cigarette smoking man, and apparently they went, oh my God, I mean that's a great idea, but can he act?
Of course, they wouldn't have known of your huge background in theater and such, but it was the first time you were really doing a big scene on the screen.
And Bob Goodwin, who was one of the producers, was assigned to direct this show, and he said afterwards he was really nervous because I didn't know whether I could. And he said as soon as it started, he just went, ah. He was just thrilled.
And of course, history was made with your character.
Right.
Now, when I got to the chapters about the X-Files, I didn't know what your relationship was like with David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson, but I'm guessing that you don't keep in touch.
No, and I doubt if they keep in touch with each other either.
Was it really that cold on the set between everyone?
Well, it's hard to say because I mean a film set is unusual. It's not like a theater set where you're all there together all the time. So you come in and you do your scenes, and I really have no complaint about doing my scenes with David. Most of the time they went well. I never quite knew whether he was going to be friendly and we'd be talkative or he'd be a little aloof, and that was fine. Gillian was always aloof.
Yeah.
And you know, you never know. Well, is that me? Am I just a little shy, or is she shy, or why is that?
Yeah.
You know, and I think they were both just really variable in their moods. On the other side of the coin, the Canadians, like John Neville and Chris Owens and
the Lone Gunman.
the Lone Gunman,
Yeah.
we all had a blast, and we got on really well, and it was always really comfortable. And in fairness to David and Gillian, they were really overworked on the show.
And you go into detail
Yeah.
about the hours,
Yeah.
and as everybody knows, film set hours
Yeah.
can be hugely long, but when you're the leads on a series, you can be working up to 20 hours a day.
Exactly, and it was an unusual series in that sense too, because the two of them carried the load. Usually
Yeah.
it's spread a bit more broadly. Yeah.
Did you ever think Cancer Man would have such longevity in your life when you first got that audition for that mysterious pilot?
Not a clue. I mean, but I'm glad I'm not an investor in these things, because I thought, here's a show that's not going anywhere. I mean, it's about alien abductions.
You haven't got a chance, kids.
Yeah, I really was surprised that it was even picked up.
Yeah.
Surprised that it continued to shoot in Vancouver. Surprised and delighted that they finally decided to keep using me.
Yeah.
And you know, I think in the modern era, it probably would have died in about 3 or 4 weeks.
But at the time, it was so new compared to anything that was on television.
And Fox had a kind of low bar at the time. So it had time to kind of develop itself and
grow.
fans to get involved with it. And the fans started to kind of build it and build it and build it. And it was kind of the first real internet
Yeah, it
show
was.
in that sense.
Now, before we go, the other thing that people may not know about you is you are a huge skier, and you were at Whistler yesterday, but your water skiing skills are incredible. And we have some footage of you, Bill, doing some tricks. Do you still water ski? We're looking at this right now.
Yeah, no, I still water ski. Oh yeah, that's from a short film that I made. Yeah, about an aging water skier. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Fantastic. Well, it's always nice to see you. Thank you so much. And if you want to pick up William B. Davis's book, it is called Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man, Where There's Smoke. Make sure that you pick it up. And you can go to Bill's website to find out all the information about where you can get it. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back,